So what we're going to do right now is just talk for a moment about the AAA, just for a sec. Have you been to the AAA stand? No, you haven't. Please go before you leave. There are some packs for you to collect there of information about right to repair and all those sort of things. They're free packs, they're good information for you, and there's some tips on how to communicate with the customer. Because this is our next big thing, is to communicate all of these issues with the customer. Little video, just to remind you about that. Thanks, Sean.
I'm Stuart Charity. I'm the Executive Director of the Australian Automotive Aftermarket Association. Independent repair and service businesses right across Australia are facing a number of serious challenges at the moment, including the technological advancement of vehicles, the skills and training gaps, and also the predatory behaviour of the car companies. For these reasons, we believe the time is right to form a truly national group that exclusively represents the interests of independent repairers around the country. And we've done that by forming a group called the Automotive Repair Council of Australia, or ARCA. The main activities of ARCA are to protect consumer choice and competition in the vehicle repair and service market by ensuring that we have mandated access to dealer level repair and service information, and to really put the spotlight on some of the anti-competitive behaviour of the car companies, including their cap price and free service programs, and also warranty confusion and misinformation. One of the activities that we'll be doing is leveraging our relationship with parts suppliers so that we can deliver technical and training nights around the country, and we've also got a number of initiatives in place to start to address the skills gaps in the industry. One of the benefits will be that we'll be doing research to help identify initiatives that can be implemented in ARCA members' businesses to help them improve their profitability and business performance. Well, if you're a progressive repairer that cares about the future of our industry, then you need to join ARCA, and together we'll make sure that there's a bright future for everyone in our industry.
Okay, we're ready to get to this session. If you'd like to get involved in ARCA, we've got an ARCA member up here on the panel in just a moment. There's some forms over there to fill in. Let's get started on this session. Should you be here? Well, there are some empty seats, which mean there are people that should be here. This is the core of the future. This is the core of our future. Diagnostics and getting paid for it is the core of our future. How we diagnose, how we do it with all the electronics today that we've got to contend with. That is where our future lies, and being able to charge for it, understanding it, and so we don't fall over. Those that fall behind are going to be in trouble. So a little bit of a quick survey of the audience here. How many of you in this room have got up to 2 scan tools? Alrighty, hands down please. How many have got 3 or more scan tools? And a smoke machine? And an oscilloscope standalone? Right, okay, we've got some 1.52s, okay? So why I ask that question is because they are indicators of the level that you're at with diagnostics. If I have a general group of motor mechanics, I'll call them motor mechanics in the room, and I ask that question, when I get to the second question, all the hands go down, there's nothing left. I've even been in a situation where they say, mate, what's a scan tool? Pretty much, okay? Now, that's not that you've got to have a scan tool to survive, it's about understanding the indicators of what's driving our industry. So today, we're going to talk about the process of thinking for diagnostics, and we're going to have a situation with Jeff in a moment from TAT who's going to present that, and then we're going to have 2 guys sitting up here, one from a BM specialist organisation, his own business, and the other person from a RAS who's got a workshop that's got a number of scan tools and does a lot of diagnostics. And we're going to ask them some questions. Now, the deal is, remember, for those who have been here before, you know, but others don't, my phone number to send a text to if you want to ask a question, because we don't do them for the audience, you just text them to me and I can pre-see them. 0418 318 799. That's the number to text. Nobody's writing it down, so you've all been to the seminars before. Okay, so you send me the text message and I try and answer those questions as best we can, or use those questions as best we can. So let's get started by hearing from Jeff from TAT. How many of you know about TAT? The automotive technician, so you know who Jeff Smit is. And you know Jeff Smit? And you came back. Wow, okay. All right, come on down, Jeff. Tell us a story on diagnostic process. Make him really welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Cole. Again, thank you guys for coming along this afternoon. A couple of quick things. My voice is just about gone. It's probably a combination of 2 things, speaking constantly for 3 days. And there's a few that audience said, Jeff, you won't have a problem with that. And 2 is probably excessively drinking last night and the night before. So it's a combination, but bear with me, we'll get through it. Diagnostics, again, if you don't know, I own and operate 2 workshops. I'm a licensed auto electrician as well as a licensed mechanic. My 2 shops are up in Sydney. Passionate, started my workshop life as an auto electrician, then branched into mechanical. I've got to make a few statements up front about diagnostics. And it's my opinion, born about by talking to a lot of people and a lot of training, travelling a lot, talking to different workshops, etc. You may agree with my opinion, you may not. That's fine, I don't have an issue with that. But I think as an industry as a whole, and I'm talking the general technician out in the industry, including myself to a degree, we were never actually taught how to diagnose. We're never actually taught. Now, if you were a tradesman of my sort of generation, the cars when I was an apprentice, an auto electrician apprentice, were a very, very simple car looking back at them now. So even though we were taught to diagnose, we were diagnosing a totally different beast than the ones we're being asked to look at today. So I think as an industry, we haven't been taught to diagnose properly. Now, if you're a doctor, you get taught that. So you get a patient and you start at the basics and you work your way through. There's a process. And what really got me thinking about it last year, my son got married, we had a couple of English relos over. I took him up to the Northern Territory, I hadn't been there, and we were taking a light plane, a scenic view of the Kakadu. And they said, Jeff, you sit up the front with the pilot, you like all that techno stuff. So I sat up there, a young bloke. I saw him land this plane about 15 minutes before we got on board. Bunch of tourists get out, we get in. So he sat in the plane, we went through the debrief, how to get in, how to get out, and the normal then we sat in the plane. He dug out the manual, laminated pieces of paper, and he went through every single check. Check flap 1, check flap 2, check this, check that, every one. He only just landed it 15 minutes before. Wasn't it safe then? And we have to go through it. He's been taught that before he takes off, that's what he has to do. There's no question. There's no, oh, she'll be right. Oh, I know that's okay. I'm not going to check that. He has to go through that. It's been taught into him that he does not take off until they're done. And I looked at him and thought, wow, wouldn't it be good to have something like that for a diagnostic check that we have to do? So we don't miss out on that basis, the basics. We don't jump and go, no, the battery's fine, this is good, we'll just jump straight into the ECU. Or we'll go and throw this part at it. And that's what got me thinking about the mechanics of diagnostics. How do we actually go about the diagnostic process? I've got 25 minutes. We're not even going to scratch the surface here today, trust me. But I'm going to try and just give you a couple of little things to go away with. My objective here in 25 minutes, if you leave and say, yeah, Jeff had a point there, we could improve our process. You might be good, you might be very good, but is there another little link there that we can think, okay, no, I can improve. So I'm going to try and touch on the mechanics of diagnostics. Not going to be easy in 25 minutes. First up, diagnostics. Who would, hands up, agree we are being asked to diagnose more issues today than we ever have in our past, ever? Yeah, 100%. Anyone disagree with it? Or just too shy to put your hand up? That's fine. It's the fastest growing part of our industry. I've analysed my own workshops. The more growth that we've got in any other part of the industry, in actual fact, pretty much everything else we do is in decline. Servicing's in decline. Biggest, longer service intervals, more reliable vehicles, etc. So diagnostics is the future, like it or not. Who would also agree, hands up, that it's more challenging? The things we're being asked to solve now are more challenging than ever before. Pretty much to agree. Again, the later the model, the more challenging it's going to be. Again, my own experience. I was taught to fix cars back in the early 80s. That's where my apprenticeship was. And we're working on a totally different model nowadays. So we're going to have to completely rethink about what we're doing. So statement, swapnostics plus guessnostics is not diagnostics. I'm sick of hearing, and even through our own TAT Assist system, oh, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried this, I've swapped this, I've done this, I haven't been able to fix it. The reality is we cannot continue to use guessnostics or swapnostics. It's too expensive and too stressful, and we're not going to fix cars that way. And by the way, we're not learning if we do that. We throw something at a car, yeah, it fixed it, we go, whoa, aren't we lucky today? And we give the customer a bill and we've learnt nothing, other than we chuck something at a car and fixed it. I could be here for hours giving you case study after case study after case study of work that gets presented to my workshop from other workshops, and you can't believe the amount of guessnostics and swapnostics is out there. And we've got to stop doing that. So, to get a bit of an idea of what we have to know about mechanics of diagnostics, we have to know what is the term diagnostics. What is it about? The practice, the techniques of diagnosis, the art, science or method of diagnosis. Now just read that statement. This was easy. It's just straight in, in the dictionary, in Wikipedia. Find out. It's all there. It's a technique. It's practice. It's art. It's a science. It's a method. And none of that has guess-gnostics or swap-gnostics in it. All right, so we have to start to learn, well, if we're going to diagnose a problematic car, what do we have to be really thinking about? We've got to get some good techniques. It is an art. There is a science to it. And the more we do it, the more we think, oh, we're getting closer, we're getting closer. Whether we ever mastered it or not, I don't know. I know a few of the doctors I've seen over the last year certainly haven't mastered diagnostics very well. We take a long time to get to the end conclusion. So we shouldn't feel bad when we're diagnosing a vehicle if we don't necessarily get it right the first time. You know, so again, it is. Definition, the process by determining or examination of the nature or circumstances of a condition. So again, look at some of the words. Examination, determining, circumstances, conditions. Again, gets us thinking about what we need. The art, the process of identifying or determining the cause of a symptom. Again, as technicians and workshops, we are presented with a symptom by our client. What's the symptom? He's got a check engine light. It's not running right. It's pulling to the left. It won't start. It won't. Oh, we get them all day, every day, don't we? They've got a symptom. And what we have to then define is what is causing that symptom. And this is where the trade, I believe, again, get mislaid. They go off the left side because they're not really thinking. The symptom is there. Yes, we've confirmed the symptom. We've experienced the symptom. Now we have to think, now what is causing that symptom? And again, I could give you case study after case study where you think, there's the symptom, I know what's going to cause that. And then eventually you find it and it's so left field it's ridiculous. All right, and I'll go into a bit more of that theory in a second. This is a chart that we've been working on for quite a few months now. Again, because I think it's needed in the industry. It's an advanced diagnostic process chart. And again, I think this probably needs to be laminated and put in the glove box of the plane. Like, you know, you've got to get it out. Are we following the process correctly? It's got a red section at the top. That's our discovery stage. We look, we learn, we do a little bit of a thinking about it. Middle section is the blue section. That's the diagnostic stage. The bottom, we've got the green, the completion stage. And I think the more we get into diagnostics, the more we have to learn what is the right process. And we're not going to touch into charging for that process at this point in time. It's another subject. But we have to be careful when it comes to diagnostics. We must charge for it. Okay? The problem with clients and the way they've been brought up, can you quote me on that? Yeah, that's fine. Tell me what you want me to quote you for. Because until you know what's wrong with it, you can't quote on it. And unfortunately, the layman out there, the customers we all deal with, rest assured, your problem customer, you're not the only one to get them. We all get them. Okay, so it's a matter of the process you have to have. So that's a process we're starting to put together. You know, TAP members will be able to get access to that, and we're doing some more training on that going forward. But to start off the conversation, I just want to show up a case study. This is a true, 100% true case study. No words of a lie. Mazda CX-7 2010 2.3 litre, check engine light on, fault code PCM P2096. You may have struck it, you may not. It is a common issue, fairly common issue. Comes up with the rear O2 sensor being lean. Now, I was up in Queensland last year doing some training, and a bloke came up to me afterwards and said, I was at a meeting the other day and a bloke up North Queensland had this code come up. So we're going to call him Workshop 1. So how did he go about fixing this code? To me, a bit old school. He decided, well, we'll do a bit of guess-gnostics here. Let's just throw an O2 sensor at it. It says there's an O2 sensor fault. Let's just throw one at it. We'll go aftermarket just for the hell of it. I'll find the cheapest one I can possibly find, and let's throw it at it. So they do that. He talks to a few people, and they say, nah, geez, don't touch that brand of O2 sensor. That's rubbish. Go genuine. Oh, okay, I'll try that then. So now we're doing swap-gnostics. We're going to swap a few things. So we put another O2 sensor in. Guess what? Didn't fix it either. Then he heard from somebody up the road that once upon a time he had a trouble with that, and he put a couple of relays in and that fixed it. So why not? We're into this deep now. We may as well get a bit deeper. We'll throw a few more relays in it. Ultimately, he ends up fitting a new ECU into it. Guess what? Problem's still not fixed. He's really scratching his head now. Now, if we fast forward, he finds out eventually what the fix is, and we'll share that in a second. Workshop number 2, modern workshop. And I'll be honest with you, this is my workshop. I was away training, true story. Had the same car come in again. We had a look at the O2 sensors. Yeah, they were a little bit lazy, but we couldn't really work out why that would particularly set that code. My workshop, our procedure is we do a bit of research, then we go and ask a few questions. Does anyone else struck this before? What did you do? Bit of research. So again, he puts it on our TAT Assist service, and this is a true story. My manager at workshop, I was away, The process is we go ask the question. So he actually put it on the TAT Assist system. He logged it in there. This is the 5th of October 2006. These are just screenshots of our website. So on the 5th of October at 8:12. So the TAT Assist was logged, I think, on the day before, the 4th of October at 6 p.m. The next morning, we had a couple of replies from Peter and Brendan Sorensen. A lot of these guys you would have seen over the weekend. Let's just summarise what they came up with. So on the 5th of October at 8:12 a.m, Rod Mayer, who you've probably all met over the weekend, he said, scope the O2 sensors, check live data. Are they rich and lean? Go full throttle. Are they richening up? By the way, have you got an exhaust leak? So a couple of ideas. Nothing too flash, but yeah, okay, we've smoke tested it. Peter Hines up in Queensland again by 1:47 p.m. the next day. Is the customer using E10? Have you asked them what sort of fuel they're running? Have you disconnected the battery to try and reset it? Again, just a couple of ideas. But have we not tried these? Third guy, Brendan Sorensen, around today too. So he had one recently with the same fold code on a Jeep. There was a technical services bulletin for that one. Needed a software update. Threw it out there. He actually put the link in for the American Technical Service Bulletin in the actual post. Dean Barry comes up, there's been a few cases in TAT already, software issues on that Mazda. This is all now, we're on the 6th of October at 7, within 24 hours. Now we're still talking within the 24 hours. Agree with the previous comments, update to change the parameters of the log this code. Again, check the exhaust studs. Have you got an exhaust leak? Air leak, going to cause up a lean mixture. Again, 6th of October, 11:50. Yep, same code, spent hours looking at freeze frame information. So as the code gets logged, freeze frame in the computer, having a look at that, thinking, okay, why is it being logged? In the end, he worked out that actually it's a lean issue, but it's actually showing rich on the car. So there's some issues here. Again, 7th of October, 8:10 p.m. Not all Mazda ECUs can be software updates. Parameters, try disconnecting the battery. So we've got a bunch of ideas that have come in within about a 24-hour period to give that workshop a bit of an idea. In the end, workshop 2, it was a software update. I personally actually took that car to Mazda when I was back there. It cost us $75 at the local Mazda dealer to do it. They were happy to do it for us, and the problem was solved. No O2 sensor changes, straight to the dealer. Found out from Gil Sher and a couple of the guys over this weekend, you can actually do that yourself as long as you've got a pass-through box, subscribe 48-hour subscription to Mazda in America, download the info, update it yourself. Gil actually did one only a couple of weeks ago in Sydney, and again, one of our members happened to be ringing him and said, He said, I've just bought a 48-hour subscription to Mazda. Bring it around now and do it for you for free. So he drove it straight around from one side of Sydney to the other, updated the software, problem was solved. So if you look at those two examples, and they are true examples, guys, they're not made up. Which workshop should be the smarter one? Workshop 1 or 2? Again, 2, yeah. What we have to remember now is the cars we're working on are vastly different. And the technology, the systems we're working on are vastly different. So the reality today is that we're working on very, very complex mechatronic systems. Mechanical with electronic on top. Okay, so it's very, very sophisticated. The reliability of the systems are dramatically improved. Technological complexity, so the complexity of the systems we're working on. And because they're so complex, that's what gives us our challenges. They're so complex that a problem over here is going to surface over here as a symptom. The symptom, we have to find what's causing it. And because they're so complex and they all talk to each other and they're interconnected all the way through the vehicle, we've got a real challenge on our hands. Diagnostic processes itself has become highly involved. We have to accept that, and if we do accept it, then we know we have to change the way we diagnose. Until we as technicians can accept that what we're doing is very different, we can then start to educate ourselves, relearning how to diagnose, getting away from guessnostics, getting away from swapnostics, and becoming true diagnosticians. Classification of faults. Just to give a quick little rundown of the way I see it in a simplistic sort of fashion. The vehicle can be divided into 2 subsystems. Very simple. We have an electronic subsystem and we have the environment. So the electronics, basically, it's the ECUs, multiple. The CAN bus systems that connect them all together. All the sensors that give those ECUs the information. And the actuators which the ECU alters to modify, tune, do whatever it has to do. So we've got the ECUs and the way they communicate. We have a bunch of sensors and a bunch of actuators. That is the electronic system. Now, as we mentioned, we're working on a complex mechatronic system. We now have a mechanical system that all that electronics gets thrown on top of. That's the environment. The environment is literally everything else, including the driver, the weather. All these things can affect the electronics. I've had many a case where a customer comes in, my car's just not running right. I said, "Good, jump in, take me for a drive." They're an old two-footed driver, so they've got their foot on the brake and the accelerator. Now, if you're a computer, what would you be saying back to that driver? What the hell do you want me to do? Do you want me to go or do you want me to stop? So you can understand why the car's going to be a little bit confused. So I say, get your foot off the brake so he can understand what you want to do. Okay, so that's the sort of thing. So we've got to make sure that we're looking at all the rest. So obviously electronics includes all the rest of it. The engine, the gearbox, the drivetrain, the tyres, the wheels, everything else, the suspension. All these things which literally the electronics is thrown on top of. I personally believe that the majority of faults that certainly I come across are in the environment, not in the electronics. The trade, unfortunately, dives straight into the electronics. It's got a fault code, it must be a component, let's just throw a few at it. In most cases, it's the environment that has changed, and the electronics just can react to that in some way, shape or form. So we have to make sure that we're addressing the environment first before we go throwing electronics at a vehicle. In diagnostics, our role is to identify faults and then possibly try and introduce countermeasures to overdo those faults. The problem we have in the aftermarket, where we all sit, is that you and I can get any car and we could come up with probably a list of half a dozen to a dozen faults in that car pretty easily. My first one is it's about 8 months overdue for service. Whether it's contributing to your symptom, I don't know, but it's 8 months overdue for service. You got bald tyres, you got this, you got that, you got this, you got to check. Oh, but don't worry about it, the aircon doesn't work. We can come up with a list of things. Our job now is to work out of that list what's actually causing the symptom. That doesn't mean we don't have the responsibility to let the customer know what else is wrong with their car. That's our job. That's what they come to us for. Whether they listen to us or not, that's their problem, their issue. I've got over getting hung up over a customer. They say, "You got bald tyres." "Oh, don't worry about it, Jeff, I'll worry about it next week." I said, "Well, that's fine, you know. Got the 2 kids in the back. That's your car, your problem, but my job's to tell you. Well, you do with what you wish." But again, we have to work on the countermeasures. Faults quite often cannot be observed directly. If only they were directly can be observed, then it'd make our job downside easier. They're not. So we have to make sure that we can understand the electronics and then try and work out where the cause of that is. So we can't observe them, in most cases, directly. So we have 2 main types of categories we can put faults into. We have, number 1, is a local symptom, directly. The fault is at the symptom. Customer comes to you and says, "Jeff, my headlights aren't working." So that's good. I went out to the car, pulled the globes out, and they're blowing globes. How easy is that? Put a couple of globes in, away we go. The symptom and the fault are in the same location. Lights don't work, blowing globes. Nice and simple. Remotely is where we're getting the challenges from, is where the symptom and the remote are totally separate. "Jeff, my headlights don't work." I check the headlights, the globes are okay, but there's no power there. So the fault's not there at the symptom. The headlights don't work because it's got no power to it. So why haven't we got power to it? Relay switch, control module, body control module, communication, power, earth, could be any of those. So our challenge now says, well, you've got a symptom, your headlights don't work, we've now got to work out why. Where is the actual fault lie? And unfortunately in our game, this is happening more often. We're being presented with a symptom, our challenge is to find out where the fault is. And it's not getting any easier. I'm not telling you anything you guys don't know. Relearn to diagnose. We have to reteach ourselves to diagnose properly. And we have to do that in different sorts of ways. So we have to now look at different cars, look at scenarios, simulate the fault as much as we possibly can, get a really good feel for it, and then start to go through that process of diagnostics. So we have to make sure we're doing it properly. Relearning, again, accessing good data. Again, we've spoken that, Rod covered it again yesterday. Accessing good data to compare to your particular vehicle. Again, I think that's a key way of going forward. So on our TAT site, if you were at Rod's system yesterday, scan data is one of our new products which Rod's brought to the table. All the makes and models are there. If we click on Ford, we can go in. So we're into Ford, we're into Holden. We can click on model. We can find a particular car. We can upload some data. So this data is now available on our website, so you can then print that off, go back to your car and say, okay, where's your issue? Where's the differences? If you go onto our site, you'll see I bought a brand new IMAX D-Max Ute, Isuzu D-Max Ute last year. I've actually captured all the data off every module on that vehicle when it was new, and it's now in our system. I've captured my own car's DNA. So in 5 years' time, if that car develops a problem, I can pull up its own DNA and say, okay, what's changed? Not too similar to what a doctor does. They'll do a few scans, and if you get sick down the track, they'll get it out and say, well, what's changed from then and now? So again, that's all now available. Data, there's lots and lots of data. We're not talking about scan data at this stage, but again, it's out there. One of the tricks you can use in diagnostics, and again, we're capturing that data. You're entitled to capture data out of customers' cars. It's no one else's property. It's the owner's property. You're going to take it and save it. If you save it on our site, it's there for everyone to see, and there's many, many thousands of files on there. Another case study I want to bring up in closing, guys. Volvo, don't worry too much about the make and model here. It's more, again, about the process involved. This was a car that came into my workshop only a couple of weeks ago. Had a fault code in there, ECM 130A, related to mass airflow faulty. So again, in the training that I did last year, we have to understand that there's performance fault codes and there are circuit fault codes. If it's a performance fault code, it means it's not performing the way it should. It doesn't mean it's faulty. A circuit fault code, short to ground, open circuit, short to power, etc., refers to the fact that it's got a problem in the circuit to that particular component. They're a bit easier to find. Performance ones a bit more difficult. In this case, I did a bit of research. Don't read this bottom bit. And it came up with a possible bunch of symptoms as part of our research. Okay, leakage in the air tank, throttle body, disc, crankshaft ventilation, mass airflow sensor, etc. So the ticks are the easy ones. We thought, okay, what's the most likely? Which is the easiest to check? Well, air leak. Let's get the smoke machine out, plug it in, check it out, no leaks. Check the exhaust, no leaks. Oh, okay. We thought that would be it, but it isn't. We then went to damaged mass airflow sensor. I quickly graphed the mass airflow sensor on the oscilloscope. I had a look at it. Yeah, it looks all pretty good to me. Nothing much wrong with that. So again, we went then further on. I eventually did send it to my mate at Volvo. I've got some really strong connections, and he did a few things, sent it back to me and said, oh, no, it's not that, not that. But he sent this bit of paper back, and read this. For upgrade software released during 2006 or later, certain adjustments have been made. A greater correction in the calculated mass airflow will be allowed, which means that this system will be more tolerant to greater deviations in the air mass. Therefore, this diagnostic trouble code is no longer necessary and has been removed. That's their fix. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with that. Let's just remove it. Fantastic. He told me at the time, he said, Jeff, we haven't updated the software, it'll be a dirty throttle body. Now, out of those 4 possibilities to start with, we as a team at my workshop thought that was the least likely to cause that fault code. In the end, we had a look at the throttle body, we pulled it out, we pulled it apart, and again, I don't know about you guys, I've seen a shitload worse than that. A whole lot worse. Anyway, we give it a good clean, put it all back together, and the problem was solved. The only issue in that case I have, and don't you hate it when you have that little niggling thing in the back of your mind and think, geez, did I miss something or did something not happen? Now, my Volvo Blake said to me, they didn't upgrade the software. I trusted him initially. I doubt it now. Maybe he said that because he didn't charge me, and that was his way of saying, well, I don't have to charge you because I didn't do it. We did the throttle body and the problem's now fixed. But if I hadn't have done the throttle body and he had updated the software, I just wasted my time because that fault code doesn't exist anymore. So it would tolerate a dirty throttle body. But I cleaned it anyway and it's all solved. So again, another process which I'm just trying to point out that we picked up 4 common issues. We went through them one by one. We diagnosed it. We didn't just throw bits at it. And we ultimately came to a conclusion. It wasn't that difficult at the end of the day. When it comes to diagnostic trouble, charts, just like my pilot at the beginning of my little presentation here. We had something, and that got me thinking we really should start to develop them. So I've been working on 4 key ones to start with, which we're just about to launch. The first one is the discovery phase. So out of that process chart I threw up at the beginning, this is our now 2-3 page diagnostic, the discovery phase. The customer brings it to you, you're doing your initial checks. You've got to set yourself a fee for this and say, okay, I'm going to get back to you so we can plot a course of action. How are we going to diagnose your problem? So that'll be available to members going forward. We then go on to phase 2, which is that middle section in the diagnostic process. This is a little bit more involved, and it also refers to at one stage there checking software, obviously research on. 3 or 4 is find the correct diagnostic procedure for that particular fault, so we can get more specific. Running rough or missing is one of our key ones we've now done. And I think these are important because even the best technicians, me included, sometimes we'll jump a step. We'll assume. And we all know what happens when we assume something. All right, so we have to be prompted. No, check this, check that. Oh, have I checked that? just like the pilot and checking flap 2. Luckily we did that because we landed safely at the end, and that's why I'm here today. Last one, catalyst efficiency system. And someone was asking me about this today, and we didn't want to release it too early because I was going to launch it basically at the show. We had a TAT Assist come through the system, and Brendan Sorensen, if he's here, got involved, and he came up with his process of what he does, how he actually checks catalyst efficiency. And we can get all sorts of catalyst efficiency codes come up. So we've now come up with a full procedure where you can actually go through and check the different bits and to get a better idea of what's happening in a vehicle if you've got catalyst efficiency problems. Guys, I'm right on the half an hour, just as I said I would be, Cole. From a TAT point of view, I know you all know about TAT. I don't know how many of you are actually members of TAT, and we'd love to have you on board. I started it together with a couple of other guys 9 years ago. I'm extremely passionate for the industry, and as an aftermarket industry, we have to start learning from each other, sharing our knowledge, our experience, and expertise. We have to start sharing that. We have to become more professional. We're not working on the same beast we were years ago where everyone could do everything. We have to make sure that we're sharing that information. So that's what we're all about. Our website's purely about sharing information, knowledge, and giving us access to as much information as we can. I'm damn proud of the website that we've now got, having Rod come on board and all the new facilities through the scan data and the reviews and programs. Our job now is to teach our members that we've currently got how to utilise those facilities as best as possible, and also to obviously get out to the rest of the trade. As a group, the more numbers we can have in there, the more services and things we can provide. If you've been past our stand and seen the many guys in the shirts, as I've said, the many guys, none of us are full-time with TAT. We don't have a full-time employee at all, me included. We've all run our own businesses. That's what funds us, not TAT. But we're all passionate about what we're delivering to the industry. And the guys that have bought into it are the guys you've all seen running around in the shirts, and we're from all over the country. We all operate our own workshop. So if you want to get involved, we want to become your diagnostic partner. That's what we're all about. We want to partner with you as a workshop and saying there's another 2,500 members that are willing to help you solve that problem car. And by the way, once you do, tell us what you did and we'll put it in our library, and they can help someone else down the track. You know, why do it the hard way? Let's do it a lot more simpler. So come and see us down on D41. We are running a bit of a show special. We've got a bunch of our top tools that we've reviewed for different companies. They've all donated it to them. We don't sell tools. That's not what we do. But they're all there, and we're going to draw that to any new member that joins up over the weekend. So hopefully I've been able to deliver what I said, that you're all going to leave thinking, that crazy bloke named Jeff with no voice, he actually said something that did hit a nerve. And it doesn't matter, I suppose, how good you are. You can always improve the processes that you have in your workshop. Guys, it's not going to get any easier with the later model cars, but I'm more excited about the future than I have ever been about the past. I think that for the guys that want to invest in diagnostics and really learn and improve that part of the business, the future's looking pretty rosy. So thanks again for your time. I know we're going to have a bit of a question and answer now, guys, but thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thanks, Jeff. Take a pew. And two other panellists would please come up here. He's dressed in his ACA shirt, right? Okay, this is Morris Donovan from a RAS store place at All Autos in Geebung in Queensland. And here we've got John from BM Auto Works. He's got it all over here. John Damianidis.
Damianidis,
I get it right?
Good try.
Just to give you an idea, this is the guy who was in the room the other day and I talked about my son's 530i. Yep, he's the guy that fixed it. Okay? Morris has got a great RAS store. We probably communicate just about every day on email of some sort, don't we? About something.
That's it.
Because we're both passionate about the industry, very passionate about the industry. From my point of view, coming from the outside in, I've been working in this industry for 30 years. My business is about go-to-market strategies. My business is about how we communicate with the customer, all the strategies and the things that we offer. And here are people sending me questions to ask. Okay. What I want to just say, though, is how I see things from the outside looking in. I come from a manufacturing background, as you know. I used to make things. And to make things, you start with a certain thinking process. And my dad taught me you have a certain sequence of doing things. You try not to pick up the tool twice. You put things down, you put things over here. So I always brought up with a sequential thinking of how to make things. And Dad was great. He actually used to throw me in the deep end and say, how do you reckon we should do this? So I had to learn. So I learned sequentially about mechanical touch and feel things that I could see. So that became my thinking process. I've had to evolve that thinking process significantly in the last few years because now I have to think about things I can't see, things I can't touch and feel. And that's the world we're in now. Coming from being mechanical workshops who used to go to a vehicle and we could physically touch and feel and see what was wrong. And the customer therefore expected that we would go out there and check the vehicle and physically touch and feel and see it was wrong. It would take us 10 or 15 minutes, and then all was good, and they'd fix it. You'd fix it. So in came free quote, free inspections. But what we did inadvertently is dig ourselves a friggin' hole. Because the customer has been educated now that we do this for free. But diagnostics is not for free when you start getting, what's this one? Electronics. What's this one? Environment that Jeff talks about. The customer still thinks it's all about that. So we've got to get our head around that from, as Jeff just said, a charging point of view. Jeff and I will be rolling out a program this year. It'll be huge. And we're rolling out a program this year to help all the businesses understand how to do the diagnostics and how to charge for it. So I'm going to just scratch the surface on it now. But let's get into some of these questions because of our mechanical thinking. And I've got one just here right now. It says, open, Selmateco, right? Just go to your example, Jeff. Regarding Workshop 2 and oxygen sensor DTC, given the amount of time and expertise taken to diagnose and repair the issue, were you able to appropriately charge out the customer? Hey, that teed it nicely, didn't it? Okay. Especially taking it to the time to drive it to the master dealer, wait around and get it back to the workshop. Now, they charge you $75. Did you charge them $75 and say, look, I'm a really good guy, or did you charge them more? What did you do?
Well, obviously there was a process involved, so when they booked it in, there was a preset agreed amount to look at the car initially. So there's, in my case, $110. From there, we had to do a little bit more testing, so there was a bit more of a charge before we ultimately told them, we found what the problem is. You've got a couple of options. You can take it back to Mazda yourself, or we can do it for you. They said, Jeff, just fix it and ring me when it's ready. We charge a surcharge on top of that. So at the end of the day, that job may have gone out at a little bit under $500 from my memory. They were super happy. It was transparently done all the way through. Everyone was happy at the end of the day. I didn't throw parts at it. I'd rather still take that process than Workshop 1's process. So, each to their own. But, yeah, we did charge for the service of working out what the problem was and ultimately, made a decent dollar out of the job as well.
Yeah, on that point then, I do go to Morris for a second here. Because when I talk to Morris, he's a devil on this. Let me tell Morris a story, if I may. Can I tell the story about the guy that brought his car in? Guy brought his car in one day. And he said, can you have a look at it for me? I said, sure, I'll have a look at it for you. I've got to pull a tech off a job to have a look at it. What does say pull a tech off a job mean? Cost. There's a cost, there's value. So he pulled the tech off the job. Guy did the inspection, came back, said, look, it's this and this is what's needed to be repaired and so forth. And didn't charge the guy for it, because we're nice guys. Right? We still pay the guy, don't we? But we're nice guys because we're dickheads. Sorry, we're nice guys. So we do that. So the guy drives down the road, off he goes. The next day, Morris is driving down the road. Hang on, I've seen that car before. That's the bugger that came and I did the diagnosis. He's at another mechanical workshop getting it fixed. Now, you have those guys come to you, you go, yee, but also we send them away. So what do you do now?
If somebody comes into my shop that I don't know and we're very busy and it does take time to do what they are asking, even if it is a road test, I'll say to them, look, I don't mind doing this, but unfortunately we have a set charge for doing this sort of work because we've got to pay our tax money. And often they'll be okay with that. But if they're not, I didn't want that customer anyhow because obviously they've got the wrong mentality. And so we really have to learn to charge for things we do. If it's a really good customer that's regular and always coming in for a service, that's a little bit different. I will do a certain amount of things for them for free. You want to maintain those customers. But you don't want to be used, and that's why it taught me a lot, that lesson. And that's where we've got to start to understand. We've got to tell the diagnostic process. So as soon as the customer comes, we've got to say things like, oh, okay, well, that's the case. We needed to have a physical look at it firstly. We need to take it for a test drive. There's 10, 15 minutes there. Need to put it on the hoist and have a look at it. I need to take a technician off a job to do that. It's going to take about 15 minutes. You've got to build a little story. So if you do decide to give that away, you've given value to get it. But if you decide to charge, you've got something to charge for. Now, we're talking here about all makes, all models. How many of you are pretty much all makes, all models? Bit of a show of hands? All right. I don't know whether we can stay that way in the future. I'm not a futurist, I'm a nearest. I talk about what's close to us, okay? I don't know whether we can stay all makes, all models. Now, John made the decision, how long ago to go single model, single business?
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
But I've been doing it for 21 years.
You do it for 21 years, but you went to BM and Binny, experts. And what's been the effect of that? And what do you think that gives you a benefit of being What's the benefit to you of running a business of being single model driven?
I think the main thing is just having that, concentrating on one model, so you don't have to worry about gathering information from different brands and coming across to your customer that you know what you're talking about. Because I think that's the...
How many same diagnostic circumstances do you come across that because you're doing them all the time?
Almost daily. You'll get 2 cars that come in that are the same sort of problem, you know. Yeah, almost daily. Yeah,
and your networking then of information, we have to network all the different brands, all the different information, be across it and so forth. But for you, you've got a very specific network.
Yeah, I just have to concentrate on basically having one brand allows us to obviously, you know, from a tooling point of view, whether it's, you know, mechanical tools or diagnostic tools, it allows us to isolate it into that one brand. So we can spend all our money on that, whereas guys like you guys have to spend, you know, all your money on 10 brands.
How do you find the diagnostic process with your guys? And how do they sell that, and how do they set up that understanding of we know how to go about it? Do they sell it to the customers, we're a specialist, or they make...
I think that it's the same process. You have to educate your customer that there's a charge for what you do. I mean, I think the biggest fear is that you're afraid to ask the customer to spend $40, $50 for us to have an initial check. And most of them are happy to spend that money, but as owners, you fear that they're not going to spend that money. So we tend to not do it. Now, you've got to do it. With the new customers that come in the door, you've got to do it. With your existing customers, you might do some freebies here and there. They come in, you do a quick check. Yeah, look, you know, Charles, it's going to be this. Bring it in next week and we'll get it sorted out. But
that's what you did for me, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the way we sort of... I mean, and the guys in the shop, you know, they know the system. Our business is all about putting systems in place, whether it's your office procedures or your workshop procedures. If you don't have processes in place, and all your guys, whether it's your junior guys or your senior guys, they need to know that that's what you've got in place, and it'll work.
Do you have specialist diagnostic guys, or do they pretty much all do everything?
Look, I like to get everyone involved. And obviously, I've got senior guys who are more inclined to spend, you know, the 2-3 hours on a car to try and work out what's going on. But I think it's important that you get your young guys involved, because most of them are pretty excited about doing that stuff. And that's what I've got to learn. That the young guys, you know, I'm young enough to have gone from kind of the internet wasn't around era to right now where everything's online. And obviously with our industry, not everything is available to us, as we know. That's the big issue going on right now. But as we go forward, it's all out there. And most of the young guys want to actually, you know, become technicians.
Morris, you think, and that's the point. Mechanic, technician, concept. We need to start calling them technicians, treat them like technicians, and then they'll become technicians. But Morris, you got a great story, because you actually brought one of your guys down here to this from Brisbane, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got 2 staff members down here. You here today, Andrew and Kieran? Andrew's down there. Kieran's
he gets a tick because he turned up to watch his boss, right? The other one, cross, didn't turn up. Right?
Yeah, but Kieran's very keen. He's a 4th-year apprentice coming up to his end of his time, and you never finish your time because you always learn, but he's very keen. I recently had a job in that I asked him to diagnose without any help from either myself or Andrew. And I asked him, first off, he said, what do I do? I said, what do you think you should do? And he said the right answers, so he went and did that. Came back with a bit of a report. I said, well, what do you need to do now? And he knew, and so he went back and he virtually diagnosed that car. We got it fixed, and he did it all on his own. He was very proud of himself. I think it's important to give them that freedom to be able to do things and to know that they've done it and they've done it right, and we need to thank them for it.
And that's because you played the role of resource, not autocratic manager.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's how you can get on a plane and come to something like this, because the business is still running. And the important thing about that is that, what do you think you should do? How do you think you should go about it? And then teaching that process of thinking, because you've got it in your neck-top computer, you've got to transfer it across to their neck-top computer. We need a sort of like a Wi-Fi.
That's right.
And that's what we're battling with here. Okay, so if...
Can I just add something there, Cole? When it comes to diagnostics, you've got a problem car, don't make it one person's responsibility. You're a team. Whether you're 1, 2, 5 or whatever, talk about it. You know, set a course of action and why. Ask the young blokes. You know, I invite all my young blokes. You know, what do you think's wrong with it? They might come up with something and I go, where the hell did you pick, how'd you think that? He goes, oh, I'm
He said, I Googled it.
No, I'm a tape and I'm with, well, it might have Googled, it might have been something on the internet, they're on different social media platforms than I am, they're mixing with different people, and the younger people, they're out there drifting on the weekends or doing, and so they're hearing different things. So involve them, make it a team effort, you know, just like your local football team, it takes a team to win the game, not a single individual.
And there is some good information out there. I mean, you know, a lot of people frown. I mean, I'm sure you get a lot of customers coming in that say, oh, I went online and Google said that this is what it is, right?
Just pause. Has that happened to anybody?
Yeah.
Right. So almost every day, right? But a lot of that stuff, you know, there is a small percentage. It is true, and a lot of the answers are there. So don't disregard it completely. Certainly, you know, the tree of the processes is the most important thing, and that chart is awesome. Just quickly, if you look at what BMW does in their I guess their diagnostic machine, they have a test plan. So you go through certain things, processes, and most of the time you will get to almost the correct answer to what's wrong with the car. Now, that's something that we give our junior guys when we've got time. Go and do this, go through the test plan, and come back to me and tell me what you've done. And it might take him 2 hours to go through that test plan, but in that process he's educated himself how to do the next car without using the laptop. So the sequences of things that he has to do, and using his brain, or her brain.
Or her brain.
Yeah. Well,
so we've got to get that diagnostic process of thinking in our brain, and that goes back to our culture. Culture being, this is the way we think and do things around here. That's what culture means. This is the way we think and do things around here. And the culture of our business overall, and I'll go back to what I started off when we started this interaction section now, is very much the mechanical culture. Okay, we go and have a look at the thing and fix the thing in mechanical culture. It's not wrong, it's not right, but that's the environment. Then we've got to look at the electronics and how they talk together. And I love the way that Jeff talks, for instance, about how the electronics send you naughty little signals that aren't necessarily true, called fault codes, and how they send you off on strange places and so forth. And that's also something that we need to start to communicate to the customer, because they go onto Google and it says fault code. Okay? Now, they think fault code is fixed code. Simple. Fault code is go find it. So that's also part of our communication that we need to start to also consider, because there's two aspects to this. There's the actual fix of the jolly thing, but there's the communication with the customer. Because we don't only want to fix the car, we want to fix it in such a way that they think, boy, I'm going back there next time because these guys know their stuff. Because sometimes you fix it and although you charge them for it and it's all okay, you say, a bit of brain damage there, but if they come back, it's worthwhile. Because remember, if a customer comes to you for the first time, you don't actually make money out of them the first time. You make money out of them ongoing. And so you're trying to win customers for life by being the people that they can trust to go to. And trust is built by explaining to them what they got in value for their money. Okay, if we're to go away from here today, these guys to go away from here with just one thought about diagnostics and diagnostic process, what's the most important thing you'd leave them with, John?
What you just touched on there is probably the most important. I find that when you're dealing with a customer, if you can physically understand that, whether it's in a technical way or in a layman's way, most of the time that is what allows that allows you to convince the customer that the money that you're about to charge them, they're more inclined to spend that money with you. If you can actually relay that information across in a way that they completely understand the process that you've gone to find the problem with their car. Because remember, it's their car that's broken. Half the time they want you to tell them what's wrong with it before you've even spent any time on it. But you've got to convince them that process of trying to find the problem with your car that we didn't build, the old didn't build it, didn't buy it, didn't build it, didn't break it, that sort of process, that needs to be relayed to the customer. And I think that allows you to be able to charge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know what yours is, but I'm going to ask you, what's your number one to go away?
I'll summarise it a bit more than what I told you. Key one would be to communicate properly with the customer. When the customer brings the vehicle in and they tell you their problem, okay, they don't explain it the way we understand things in a mechanical sense or in the technology sense. So make sure we communicate and almost interrogate that customer so we can get as much information as we can. If we don't do that, and it has happened where you've gone down the wrong track because you've assumed something wrongly. And it can save time. I've had information that doesn't seem relevant, but I've still noted that down and I write everything down so it's all recorded. And that piece of irrelevant piece of information has been the key point to fixing that problem. So it's very important to communicate. Key 2, make sure you experience a problem. If you don't experience a problem, again, you're still left in the dark a little bit. Often I have a rule that if I can't experience a problem, we don't fix it. We stop until we experience a problem. It's very important. And do a visual. Have a look at under the bonnet. Look for a broken hose or a corroded electrical terminal or something that's quite simple that you might, shorten the time of the diagnostic process by seeing something. And lastly, the key 3, don't forget the basics. The basics, your battery voltages, your voltage drops, just those basic things that I know TAD have got it down on their website. Just go through all those basics. So often we hear complaints of problems where people do, throw in parts and they swap parts and they've done all this stuff only to find it's something very basic indeed.
Thank you. And Jeff, would you say something to close on that?
Yeah, I suppose the challenge for everyone is to think, well, can we improve our process and change? So I suppose if you came to Jeff Mutton's session yesterday, it's easy to do, it's easier not to do. And so you can all leave out of here thinking, yeah, that's all good. But if in 2 weeks you're doing exactly the same as what you're doing today, then you wasted your afternoon. So the challenge is really to go back to work and try and think, okay, how can we improve this? And as human beings and as male, particularly as we get older, we don't like change. We're same. So it's not easy to go back to work and say, no, we're going to do this differently now, guys, and reinstill that change. So I suppose the challenge to everyone is to really think about what you've heard for the whole weekend, not just to this session, but what all the things you've picked up, and go back to work and think, okay, really, where can I improve? And we all can, there's no question. And really make an effort to think, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to look back and think, what have I changed? Because the reality is, in a month's time, the majority will say we haven't changed anything. All good ideas, but we've done nothing. So from that point of view, I challenge you all, to really think about it, where can you make some changes? And as an industry as a whole, we need to change. We need to educate our customers. We need to evolve with this industry that we've found ourselves in. Just like the cars we're working on have evolved, we need to, and quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, we're out of time now. I've just got one other come through here. No, can't take any more questions right now. Thank you.
Before you finish, Kyle, I just wanted to finish with one thing. Cole's been the facilitator of all the sessions over the week, and I know he's got one more to go, but I've known Cole for many years. He facilitated a conference back in the mid-'80s for car parts and back in auto electrical days. And when I finally met back up with Cole, I think he's done a superb job. I think we should all give Cole a round of applause. Having known Cole for a while, I know he's one of a kind. And this is unannounced. He knows nothing about this. Well, I'm about to prove, or hopefully, that he's exactly that. I'd like to see a show of hands of anyone in this room that owns, loves and drives daily a 380. Now before, a lot of young faces here, they're probably thinking an A380, not an Airbus A380, a Mitsubishi 380. Now, if anyone wants to know what a Mitsubishi 380 is, they were brought out between 2005 and 2007, locally produced, the last one. They were going to be the saviour of Mitsubishi here in Australia. Guess what? They only lasted to 2000, they don't exist anymore. So, please, show of hands. There must be more than... Does anybody here own...
Hey! Another one!
I would have swore that he is one of a kind, but he's not. It's funny, we were driving down on Wednesday, and in the Tan Assist, up come a 380. I thought it was him stitching me up. I thought there couldn't possibly. I rang the member and I said, listen, I know who owns that car. He says, can only be one of them. But no, to Cole, a great effort. I think the seminar series has been fantastic for us as workshop owners and technicians. So, again, Cole, well done.
My Mitsubishi 380
has
got DBA slotted discs, Bendix stealth pads, Petters specially made 25mm lowered springs, Petters front and rear shocks, LED lights, LED internal lights, and I can go on.
So it's not a Mitsubishi anymore.
It's aftermarket, and it's got bigger wheels, and it's got Michelin tyres, and so it goes on. Because I have got, sorry? I'm an aftermarket freak. Now, my GT4 Group A Celica, that's another story. He keeps forgetting to mention that. Okay? But I like the 380. I've had it since 37,000 Ks. I bought it to keep 2 years and it's done 200,000. I've still got it. I don't know what I'm going to get to replace it because I actually like it. Because actually it's a good car. Anyhow, thank you for that, Jeff. Thank you very much.